All right, welcome. This is Nick Marine, presenting Let's Read Japanese, course series for the reading of Japanese text alongside its audio counterpart. Today's episode is Shinya Shokudo, the movie, the 2016 movie. This is part 5 of 5, so that's the last part of this movie. And this was in the this current run where I'm doing the two movies, so it's basically both movies took about 10 videos for me to get through. After this, I'll be doing three videos concerning Kino Nani Tabata, the three specials that are on Netflix. And then after that, I'll be moving back to what's the next one? Time. Yeah, I'll be finishing up the second half of Time Taxi. All right, and then back to Shinya Shokudo. All right, so right now this current schedule I've been doing seems to be working. Um, I took a few days off of doing Let's Reads of dramas. I was doing the news. I didn't read the news yesterday because I was going to be doing a lot of work yesterday. But yeah, and I'm not doing the news today. Um, Well, anyway, since this is a video and this is going to go up on YouTube, I won't go too much into blog territory till at the end. So with that said, let's just get started. Um, with that said, if you enjoy this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and a like. If you and leave a comment, feedback's always welcome. If you enjoy this series, you like to see more like I was describing, you can subscribe to the channel. Finally, this is a part of the Let's Learn Japanese project. So if you appreciate what I've been doing to help the Japanese learning community, you can show your support via the Patreon, so the links are in the description, as well as links to the community Discord and the Let's Learn Japanese website that Otaku Dave put together. Finally, if you'd like to hire me on commission, technical assistance advice, but usually it's a one-on-one to help walk you through, usually for people to walk through either starting or restarting in a different direction. Then yeah, that's normally how it's done. But the hourly rates and the payments are done are on the Patreon. So a direct link specifically for that is in the description as well. All right, with that said, let's get started. This is it's like 300 lines of dialogue, so should come up to about 40 minutes to an hour. There was a lot more talking near the end. I did finally watch this. I watched this movie with my wife again last night, and I actually sat through and was paying attention to it. Um, and then, of course, it got to the part where I haven't done the Let's Reads on, so it's much more difficult to follow along with. So, again, it's what I mentioned before. If you do something like this, where you essentially are reading it like a book while listening to it, looking up words you don't know, looking up phrases you don't know, so you understand the comprehension of the overall story is at a much higher level, rewatch it. You don't have to rewatch it immediately, but that same day. Yeah, but just rewatch it once if you find it fun, and be willing to rewatch it again. You're going to get a lot more out of this. And if you just say, "Oh, I got to do new stuff. I got to do new stuff," you don't let that mindset be the thing that stops you from getting better in Japanese in a more efficient way. I'm not saying go the Dogen route where he says, "Hey, watch this movie on loop, record the audio on this, listen to it, or watch it like just this one movie like multiple times." Like, I don't know, like it sounds a little too excessive to me. What what I don't want you to do is like lose the benefit of you've made something comprehensible, so you can actually get something out of it by watching again as it was meant to be watched. And you can also take this audio, rip it, and what's called the compact, and get rid of the empty spaces. So computer programs can do that automatically now. And yeah, you can just now you get a benefit of background immersion of hearing something that's comprehensible. Take advantage of that. Don't don't feel don't be the person who always like uses an excuse as to why they can't rewatch something. I don't rewatch stuff because it's just not something I actively try to do. But if someone turns on a video and it happens to be playing, I'll sit down and watch it. So what you could do if you're that type of person, just kind of um, take the active portion out of it and just have it to where it's done automatically. You can actually set your computer up to autoplay movies if you want to, or if you want to have your alarm set where throughout the day the alarm comes on and all of a sudden it's playing a song. And the song just happens to be the audio from this particular movie or TV show that you had just done a Let's Read on. So think about that. But anyway, with that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go into this blog teaching format, but yeah, let's go. And if you're watching this live, feel free to leave comments, no problem. Uh, if you're watching this live on Twitch. All right, let's go. All right, so just to recap, these two people are holding a stakeout. They are holding the stakeout above the diner. Um, Trying to look at someone, I guess someone's ripping off people. And yeah, let's see how it goes. And yeah, the old lady probably has been ripped off some type of scam, gave $20,000 away to someone, and people trying to take care of her, figure out, hey, what's the full story here? We don't know the full story as to about her, but yeah, don't expect this to be completely happy or sad, but I thought it was like what was it, bittersweet? There we go. That's kind of a bittersweet ending. Now, where are we at here? Okay, there we are.
ごめんね。勝手に台所借りたばい。あ、これも。まだ寝とってよかとよ。
ばあちゃん、何こしょっとだろうね。失礼いたします。エビになります。やっぱり私、自分の分出します。
よかよ。宿泊代の代わりやけん。それに誘ったんはうちの方たい。あ、はとバスの方が良かったと
And if you ever get a chance, I don't know how expensive it is. It's not that expensive, but it's got a price to it. But that's like a tour boat around the Bay of Tokyo, and it's kind of an interesting way of, you also do it around the Bay of Yokohama. In fact, there's one where you go from Yokohama to Tokyo, about a 2 hour or so ferry ride of sorts. Yeah, it's interesting way of, a version of sightseeing that, maybe most people don't think about doing.
わかりました。甘えさせてもらいます。
甘えさせてもらいます。It's a good phrase to learn.
息子さんから連絡ありました？
中。けど、頼りが中とがよか知らせって言うでしょうが。
頼り。Correspondence, okay. Well, remember, subtitles are meant for people, originally meant for people who can't hear. So they, again, they will have sound effects on there.
息子さんの携帯番号は？
Now, I tend to do, when I did the rips here, I remove usually the sound effects because it probably not really necessary for the reading. But yeah, it is useful to have it in the obviously in the subtitles.
だから。
住所とか家の電話番号は？
And I also say, especially with Japanese, sound effects, onomatopoeia or whatnot could be useful. So it might be a good way, because again, normally you don't have people say sound effects in talking, but when you're going reading, they're going to have sound. So it's good to learn those particular words, especially when you start reading books, because they're definitely going to be putting sound effects in books, or the text for sound effects.
どっちもわからん。
また冗談ばっかり言って。
このエビも東京湾で取れたもんやろね。
It does. That sounds good. It should be dementia, right? Yeah, senility. 認知症。
もしかしたらそうじゃないかって。でも病院に行けとも言えないから、九州の親族の方に迎えに来てもらうことはできないでしょうか。
まあ、みちるさんの心配はわかりますが、そこまでしなくても。
Where'd they come from?
この子も納得いかん言うとるがな。 やってできひんのと最初からやれへんのは意味が違う。公務員は納税者に誠意を見せなあかん。
Is this a whole we pay your taxes? You should okay. So that's obviously a public employee, probably receiving taxes, taxpayer. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let me actually see this. You saw somebody in organization.
最初からやれへんのは意味が違う。公務員は納税者に誠意を見せなあかん。
おかみさんにも心配だって話したら小暮さんに相談した方がいいって言われて。
わかりました。ではこうしましょう。福岡県警に警察学校の同期がいますので問い合わせてみましょう。可及的速やかに。
可及的速やかに。可及的できる限り、なるべく可及的速やかに。可及的。Let's say 速やか。Rapidly 速やか。可及的速やか。
可及的速やかに。押さないでください。外下がりましょうか皆さんね、危ないですよ。カメラが凶器になりますよ。狭いですか。
凶器。盗撮する。As a weapon? What? What? Camera become a weapon? カメラが凶器になります。Okay. That's kind of weird.
カメラが凶器になりますよ。狭いですからね。押したでしょ。今危ないですよ。その辺。もう出てきたぞ。
So they captured the scammer.
由紀子さんはやっぱり騙されていた。そして小暮君の尽力でそして小暮君の尽力で由紀子さんの弟さんと連絡がつき迎えに来ることになった。
Her brother. Okay.
はい。
はい。So, 大川哲夫。はい。
姉は認知症やら患っておりません。
認知症やら。患ら。It should be like a patient or something, or inflicted. So it's not inflicted. 心の中悩む。苦しむ病気になる。OK。患っておりません。
OK。姉は認知症やら患っておりません。強いて言うなら。
I haven't heard that also. It's like if I have to be forced to say something. 強いて言うなら。
忘れられんち病気です。
forgetfulness. 忘れられんち病気です。姉には亭主と息子がおったとですが、姉には亭主と息子がおったとですが、出入りしちょったクリーニング屋と駆け落ちましたとです。 うん。
出入りしちょったクリーニング屋と駆け落ちばしたとです。そのクリーニング屋が私の兄ですね。やけん私は由紀子さんの義理の弟さん。姉はですね、捨てた息子が東京におるいうことだけは捨てた息子が東京におるいうことだけは一つでに聞いて
どうしてどうして
一つでに聞いて知っとったとです。
うん。
じゃあ由紀子さんと息子さんはずっと音信不通だった。
音信不通。I know, not communicating, but oh, and there's that word again, right there, Tayori. Um, 音信不通だった。
由紀子さんと息子さんはずっと音信不通だった。
はい。捨てといて勝手なもんちゅうもあるでしょうが。
I don't think that's it. もんち。
捨てといて勝手なもんちゅうもあるでしょうが、あん人はずーっと息子の言葉を忘れられんとです。和也君、ですね、和也君ちゅうとは姉の息子の名前ですが、連絡先は私が兄から聞いて知っとりました。
うん。
兄は6年前にがんが見つかってですね、余命1年と言われた時、
余命1年と言われた時、
余命1年と言われた時、
言われた時、
姉に何か起こった時のために、姉に何か起こった時のために興信所ば作うて調べとったとですよ。
共振者。Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. 共振者。
興信所ば作うて調べとったとですよ。兄が死んだ時、
うん。
私は姉に黙って和也君に連絡ばしました。
連絡場。Not sure about that.
私は姉に黙って和也君に連絡ばしました。わて彼はもう赤の他人やき会うつもりはなかち。
うん。彼は悪の悪の他人。うん。
もう赤の他人やき会うつもりはなかち。私は姉に黙って和也君に連絡ばしました。わて彼はもう赤の他人やき会うつもりはなかち。はっきり言うたとです。こげん詐欺に遭うくらいやったら。こげん詐欺に遭うくらいやったら姉に話しとくべきやったとかもしれません。ばって私には言えんやった。
So there's about 10 again.
知らん方が幸せということもあるけん。
あ、マスター、お疲れ様です。いやー、被害届も提出できましたし、
The compensation or something? Let's see. Victims damage report. Okay. Oh. 被害届も提出。
犯人もいやー、被害届も提出できましたし、犯人も捕まったので、これで一件落着ということで。
一件落着。
犯人も捕まったので、これで一件落着ということで。まあ、
So again, I've been hearing this word a couple other times, so it's starting to pop up more, this phrase. 一件落着ということで。
お金が戻ってくるかはあれですが、とにかくほっとしました。まだ何か気になることでも。
やっぱり二人を合わせてみちゃどうだい。由紀子さんと息子さんを。
いやー、でもそれは。
いや、無理に引き合わせなくたって会うってことだけならできるんじゃないのかな。
謎々ですか？
謎々。
謎々ですか？
お待たせしました。
おまわりさんと話ばした時、初めて「ああ騙された」って「バカなことした」ってはっきり分かったと。そんでもすぐに帰る気にはなれんかった。和也のおる東京にしばらくおりたかったと。少しだけ同じ空気ば吸いたかったと。
気持ちの整理がついたっちゃろ。一緒に帰らんね。
I wonder if that's a full phrase. No.
一緒に帰らんね。気持ちの整理がついたっちゃろ。一緒に帰らんね。
もう一日待ってくれんね。お世話になった人に挨拶ばしたかけん。
明日の新幹線昼過ぎの博多行きばとるけん。それでよかね。
Yeah, again, the lady that reminds me of my wife's aunt.
待っとるけんね。
次12時。
お休みのとこ。
はい。
お休みのところすいません。警察の者ですがお尋ねしたいことがありまして。
どうぞ。
すいません。すいません。
何か。
So that's the son.
お恥ずかしい話なんですが、自転車の窃盗犯を追いかけていたところ。
Tohan. So a bike thief, I assume, but larceny. 自転車の窃盗犯。窃盗犯。Actually, let me look that again. Stealth. Okay. 窃盗犯。
自転車の窃盗犯を追いかけていたところ、相手はイタリア製の高級自転車なもので、うわーって巻かれてしまいまして、この
かれて。かれてしまいました。
このうわーって巻かれてしまいまして、この見知らぬ町へと迷い込んでしまいまして、ここはどこでしょうか。
ママ。
地図ってあったっけ？ちょっと持ってきて。
すいません。
First, I wasn't. I thought like that was his mother-in-law, or and whatnot, not as a. No, and that's the taxi driver from the beginning of the story. I misunderstood. I thought maybe that was his taxi or something. Maybe I was. And we're gonna focus. It's gonna be his photo and his name. You realize, okay, it is the son. But again, the brother-in-law already knew where the son was at. Already had the information and whatnot. Just didn't tell the mother. So now they're deciding, okay, yeah, you can go and see him. It's kind of a cute little, it's technically a scam in a way, but not in not a negative way.
なんか
ググればいい。Oh, Guguru. No, Gugu. Why does it Guguru? Maybe they're doing Guguru as a verb. So Gureba. Really? Huh. That would be an interesting. Huh. That's an interesting way of doing a loan word. Like actually, it's Google, but then turning it into a verb. You know, which we did that in English as well. We turn Google it. So Gugu. But they actually the kid is using it like a verb. I wonder if that's like a yeah. Okay, that's. There's probably other words that done it that way.
なんか
That's very. I don't know. I find that unlikely though.
可愛いか
窓開けましょうか。
ありがとう。
財布忘れてるよ。
Very I mean, it's a precocious kid. Yeah.
あの星の
よかお父さんしとる。
Mm.
バカなことばして笑うとる笑うとる
Kind of sad.
もうよかです。
風が吹き出すのあの星はありね。よかったですね、息子さんと会えて。
Mm. Less more like me, more like looked at, was able to see, but.
勘違いしてすいません。
いや謝らないけんのはうちの方たい。みちるちゃんには順を追って話さないけんと思う。
順を追って。
順を追って話さないけんと思うとったと。
いいんです。 ゆきこさんの笑顔が見れたからそれでいいの。
みちるちゃん、これ少なかばってん。
受け取れません。
日持ちやけん、いろいろと入りようやろ。
リオ。
いろいろと入りようやろ。女の子の一人暮らしやけん。もらってくれんと帰られんばい。
お裾分けです。
So so. Right, why it's related to the sleeve. Susawake. Or it could be like saying paying something forward, like something good was done for her, so she's paying it forward to the next person.
お裾分けです。私がマスターによくしてもらったように、いつか誰かが困っていた時同じことしてあげられたらなって。明日見送れないから新幹線の中で食べてもらおうと思って店で作ってきたんです。クリーム塩辛。店で作ってきたんです。クリーム塩辛。
クリーム塩。Okay.
おいしそうやね。焦げんことまでしてもろうて。
焦げんこと。
焦げんことまでしてもろうて。みちるちゃん、ありがとう。最後の晩やけん、一緒に寝らん？決まりたい。
Now, I will say, by the way, I sped through the parts, like, because of this, like, when I was doing the Let's Read of this before I watched it again, you miss some of the nonverbal portions, such as the part of the movie where the master walks out of his store, the diner, and looks up, and you do see the detectives are up there. So I mean, it shows you blatantly that yeah, they're having the stakeout on top of his diner. Similarly, not similarly, but in a different way, when you're like the scene where she is seeing her son and feeling the regrets, that's a lot more sad if you're able to sit down and watch it all the way through. And again, there's no need to have any type of any speaking or talking during that time. Just the emotions are showing you. So it becomes sadder the more you watch it. Because I speak through it, obviously on this part, that part gets missed, the emotional aspect. So again, that's why it's also important to, again, rewatch the show or the movie after doing this. Yes, this is a lot of time investment, but I think the payoff, especially when you've already, you've already invested quite a few hundred. By the point you get to where you can do something like this, you already invested a few hundred hours, a couple hundred hours anyway. Just to get up to like 2,500 words, 500 to 1,000 kanji. Then you want to, and at that level, something like this could take you like 10 times as much. Like if it's an hour of a show, it'll take you like 10 hours to get through it because you have to look up almost everything. But slowly rewatching what you did a read through of, and it just you get an immediate. It's almost like a. What's the term? Like it's just an emotional response. Like it's like like endorphins trigger or whatnot. But you just have this really good mental high of that you're appreciating something in its native language. So that's why I would encourage it as well. And yeah, you're doing it here, but of course, because you're doing lookups, you're adding either English, although you could just use because you're probably not at a level where you can only use Japanese definitions, or to follow along. But again, it's I like to always try to encourage that. Like this is not the only thing you do. I mean, there's stuff that I don't do that I'm not showing on the video that you want to also do as well, that is going to pay off and is still fun and enjoyable. Sayazuri. Probably chirping.
今日は何時の新幹線で帰るんだい？
お昼に東京駅で弟と待ち合わせばしとると。
そうかい。
あん時もそうやった。駅で男と待ち合わせばしとってね。うちは黙って身支度ばして。
It's a choice, right? Equipment? 身支度。うちはまた身支度。身支度ばして。
うちは黙って身支度ばしてテレビ見てる息子に買い物ばしてくるけん待っとってねって言って、玄関に向かってばってんなんかおかしかと思ったとやろね。息子がうちにしがみついてきて、息子がうちにしがみついてきて僕も行くって聞かんかった。つい男ん子やなかね、もう見てもなかって怒鳴ってしもったと。怒鳴ってしもったと。息子は分かったって言って、もうそれっきりなんも言わんかった。あん時のあんこの顔が今でん忘れられんの。うちは命よりも大切なもんを捨ててしまった女やけん。だって東京へ来てほんなことよかった。マスターさんありがとう。
いやいや、俺は何も。
マスターさんがおるけんこん店にみんな
おるけん
集まってくるとやね。そん中に混ぜてもろて。
混ぜてもらおう。
そん中に混ぜてもろて、嬉しかです。
ゆっこさん、最後に食べたいものがあったら何でも言ってよ。できるもんなら何でも作るから。
あ、やっぱ
豚汁
定食ば。
豚汁
豚汁。
豚汁
最初に来た時もそうだったね。
ずっと食べとらんかった。息子の好物やったけん。初めてこん店へ来てお品書きば見た時。
お品書き。So I guess that's like a version of a menu, but お品書き。Name it, yeah. お品書き。
初めてこん店へ来てお品書きば見た時なんか知らん、 久しぶりに食べたかって思ったと、一番のおすすめやけん、ここに書いてあるっちゃろ。
ああ初めて人からうまいって褒めてもらった料理なんだ。
ああ、そうね。
お待ち。
いただきます。美味しかです。またいつかここに来ることがあったらお願いしてよかですか。
もちろん。
I gotta look. Yeah, a few times a year, people like my aunt and wife will go to Tommy or something and go to our family grave and again do this, visit it and clean it off.
お久しぶりです。おやつさんが褒めてくれた豚汁。
Oh yes.
美味しいって言ってくれたお客さんがいました。
So I actually wondered if they showed the name.
これからも店を見守ってやってください。
I don't think they show it. Okay.
良いお年を。
Yo Toshio. New Year's, huh? Wow. So yeah, okay, because it was like November the 11th when the stakeout was happening. So probably the news happened a little bit after that.
あ、いらっしゃいいらっしゃい。見てって。いらっしゃい。あ、見てって。
お待ち。
あら。かつおだしのいい匂い。
Katsuodashi. Okay, gotcha. God damn it.
あれつけないの？
あれって何？
ほら日記。晩ご飯のメニュー毎日つけてるって。
ああ、もうやめた。
どうして？
何を食うかじゃなくて、大事なのは誰と食うかだろ。
大事なのは誰と食う。It's not important the meal you eat, but the people you eat it with.
こんばんは。
いらっしゃい。
マスタ
うん？
ー、忘れてません？お稲荷さん。
うん。お稲荷さん。
忘れてません？お稲荷さん。
あ、
うん。
あっちはもう降ってんのかい。
初雪の日、おばあちゃんがメールくれました。
みちるちゃんに会えるの楽しみに待ってんだろうな。いっぱい おばあちゃん孝行してきなよ。
I know it's like oyakoko. Yeah. Filial. I don't know why they say filial piety. So it sounds like a really like it's not a word I've ever before I looked at kanji. Um, but you see it as the definition here. Filial 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 piety. Duty. Oh, oyakoko.
いっぱいおばあちゃん孝行してきなよ。
はい。
And usually I see for Coco, it's like oyakoko. But yeah, oba-chan Coco. There's the snow.
Wow!
That was loud. She's...
大丈夫これ。いやいや、すいませんじゃないよ。
I think that's the first time you hear her talk. What's her name again? Sasaki. Actually, let's see. Maybe I'll... No, they're not saying how to say it.
入る？うわ、ちょっとなんこんな。ほらほらほら。
一日が終わり、人々が家路へと急ぐ頃、俺の一日は始まる。営業時間は夜12時から朝7時頃まで。人は深夜食堂って言ってるよ。客が来るかって？それが結構来るんだよ。
All right, cool. All right. So so that was the movies. It's like I did it in 5 parts, roughly 280 lines, 208. So I'm thinking maybe what I'll do from all the list reads, I'll check the number of dialogue lines or sentences, and roughly, maybe right now 280 seems like a pretty good number. I might also do that for if I do let's reads of novels again. Before I would do it like times on the, which actually for novels with audiobooks you don't have to. You just, hey, do you want to do 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, and probably with that you want like around about 15 to 20 minutes because it's just pure dialogue. There's no downtime, pure talking. So it depends on how you approach it. And you can kind of see through here like the conversation with the brother-in-law. That part was a little more difficult to follow along. Like who had left? Was it? It seemed like the mother had left. She had left, and then basically created this animosity. Just the son just didn't care, didn't want to know anything, want anything to do with her. And it could be, when she realized she got fooled, but in a way she wanted to, in a way she wanted to, meet her son again. So, but she also knows that there's a history there that, again, that there are pages that can't be left unturned, can't be turned back, left unturned, words that can't be unspoken, deeds that can't be undone. It just, again, there's a long history there, and maybe, if they had said to the son, explain to the son the situation, what had happened, and in a way, maybe that could have helped but maybe she didn't want to like disturb the life that he had set up. He did set up a life without her, and that goes on, and maybe she didn't want to disturb that. Maybe it was just enough just to finally see him that he is happy, married, has a child. Seems to be seems to be a very normal family. So that maybe that's the most that she wants to hope for, and she was sad that she never got to see that up to that point. regretting all the decisions we made that led to that. But those decisions were made. That history has happened, and she didn't want to destroy it after that point. So you can understand how it's just enough just to look and then leave. Sometimes there is that. Sometimes it's worth it. You just to climb Mount Fuji once in your life just to see the sunset, or I'm sorry, see the sun, not sunset, see the sunrise. Maybe it's a one-time thing. Well, again, you can do it multiple times, but maybe it's enough to do it just the once. Maybe that one time is enough. Maybe that one view, that one sound, that one laugh is enough to hold you over for the rest of your life. So it's it's kind of a bittersweet. I mean, it ended in a positive way, and but there were some things that were sad. But again, the story starts off. You realize she is being scammed. That was kind of obvious. It was great to see how this group of people would be willing to support her. And there's nothing. By the way, that will happen. I guarantee. If that probably has happened in some way or fashion in real life around in Japan and other countries as well. Strangers will come out to help others in need. That will happen. And the idea of paying it forward, yeah, that's going to happen. So there's nothing unusual about that. It's just that it would be great if that was the norm, and it's almost like an expectation. Unfortunately, like most things in life, the good acts will be exploited by those with ill intent. It's just, again, that's what the scam was. It's like she wanted to help her son. I mean, that's really, sorrowful. She had the best of intentions. She wanted to help. Her son was in trouble. She wanted to help. It was actually some guy just scamming her. And then, anyway, that was just one story. This was like of 3 stories. The first one was kind of sad, kind of bittersweet again, where she was going through a lot of issues, trouble at work. She actually, was the one to discover, one of the writers had passed away, and she discovered the body. There were a guy she was kind of wanting to go out with. It turned out to be a thief, but finally she did meet someone she could be with. The second story, actually, I think, not necessarily sad. Really, nothing sad about it. I mean, again, it starts off talking about the 16th anniversary of a spouse's death, and but it's mainly about her and her son, and then a little bit about the son and his fiance, and it's kind of a funny story that goes around with that. It's so that was a kind of a not bittersweet. I mean, that was just a very positive. That was a very happy ending or whatnot for that story. This one, not necessarily happy or sad. It was a little sad, so hence the whole bittersweet. And I think that's a very good example of something that is bittersweet. You would think the happiest thing would be she would be able to talk to her son. Okay, burnt bridges are rebuilt. They bury the hatchet. They end up being actually communicating and going along together. But maybe reality, it wouldn't be like that. Maybe he really would not want to see her again, even knowing what she went through, like with the scam. It just that could have happened, and maybe it's best for her not knowing the full hit. We heard just a part of it. There could be even more to it than that. And yeah, this is probably the best way it could end. And maybe just a little bit of time she spent of people taking care of her, being nice to her. Maybe that, in a way, a girl who treated her like her own grandmother. Now, then maybe that was enough. Okay, sorry, they got a comment by Affix. Do you immerse all the time, or do you not have time to fully devote? Well, remember, immersion doesn't take time. You can have immersion where you're just having the audio playing in the background. So I could do that. I mean, I could, I can go to my, I can't show you. Well, maybe I could, but yeah, I mean, I've got it right here. Here's the audio.
一日が終わり、人々が家路へと急ぐ頃。
で彼は
That's the audio from the
赤の他人
I
や
could
け
have
会う
this
つも
playing.
りはなか
Let
ち
me turn it down real quick.
はっきり
I could be having this playing all the time. So now it's background audio. But because it's audio from something I read, it's when I pay attention to it, it transfers into passive audio. And I use the term background, passive, and active in these forms. Passive just means I'm not trying to look up what I don't know. So If I understand it, good. If I don't understand it, sorry. But keep going. But since I've done a let's read of this particular audio, more of it's comprehensible. Part of it was because I already know the story, so I know what words to expect, what phrases to expect. Part of it is because, I remember what words. And also as my vocabulary. But again, it's passive because I'm only depending only on my personal level of Japanese. And you can have this happening all the time. There's no time investment just to have it playing. All right. Then there's active immersion, and even this passive one is also if you're sitting down and watching a TV show, that's still passive immersion. Yeah, that's a time investment. That is true. But but don't overlook how the power of audio. Having an earpiece in, like most of the time, walk around listening. It doesn't have to be in both ears. Although both ears will kind of like help you maybe concentrate more on the dialogue. And I will say, but yeah, you can get a lot of it, and it pays off. Then there's but a lot of the investment is going to go with the active part. Active is more study, where you're going to look up words you don't know. Then there's the next level, which is just flat out studying, and that's just again it can be structured or unstructured, but it's still just studying. So that's mainly we now associate that with Anki, but it could just be also reading a grammar book, reading a book on maybe it's studying a subject matter or whatnot, finding out what words means.
明日の新幹線昼過ぎの博
So
多
you
駅
remember
は
this scene?
届け
This is where the brother is talking to the sister, talking about when they're going to be leaving. He's given the time of the Shinkansen.
待っとけんね
We just watched that, but now it's hearing again. Now it's a lot more comprehensible because we just covered that scene.
お休みのところすいません。
Here's where the cop is meeting up with the brother, or I'm sorry, the son. He's kind of doing a pathetic little play. Sanmon Shibai, but
自転車の窃盗犯を追いかけていたところ、相手はイタリア製の高級自転車のもので、
it's a very Italian style bicycle. But he got completely lost.
迷い込んでしまいまして。ここはどこでしょうか。
ここはどこでしょうか。
マ
ママ、チーズ持ってきて。
チーズ買ったっけ？ちょっと持ってきて。
持ってきて。Right? So, anyway, let me pause that. So I don't think there was no time investment. I was talking to you while the audio was playing. So that means I could be working while the audio is playing. So the immersion can happen for a big part of the day. There's about the whole time investment. Yeah, sitting down and watch a cartoon, but then that's an investment. Like, well, can you sit down and watch a movie in English? Well, then use that time to watch it. It's just a trade-off. I don't see a problem with that. I don't do it. I'm very bad about not doing it. That's all. That's why, again, I'm kind of a running joke, I'm just never going to learn Japanese. I'm not putting the time in. That's all. The time that, and I do put this in terms of hours. Like, okay, hey, you're trying to build up to like 10,000, maybe even 22,000 vocabulary words. Because the more words you know, the more you're going to get out of passive immersion. That's just, just by numbers. That's just by numbers thing. Just by, again, you understand 90% of the vocabulary, 95%, you get more out of, 98%, you get even more out of. It just, yeah. You're trying to get to at least a minimum the 75% mark. That's what I usually recommend before you start worrying about let's reads. But once you get to the 75% mark, and then you're slowly, it's going to be a long track to get up to 80, 85, 90, 95. I mean, just out of just vocabulary words that you have more of an active comprehension of. But there's that. Then, of course, there's what I mentioned is you want to do the investment of let's say these let's reads. These let's reads are roughly going, I'm aiming for the equivalent of 50. The main let's reads to do, like a series or a light novel, they're all equivalent, roughly about 250,000 characters, roughly 200 to 250 pages of a book. And I'm trying to aim for 50 of those books. So a 13 episode TV series that's roughly an hour long each is a light novel. Or, yeah, roughly about a light novel's worth. So I want to do about 50 of those series or 50 of those actual light novels. Or if I do something like Harry Potter, where, again, those are bigger books. So like the first Harry Potter is like almost 400, 500 pages. So that's 2 light novels. This third book and the second book and the third book is more like 3 light novels. And I'm doing that as a numbers game where but my goal is to get up to around 50 books. And I'm pretty sure my reading ability would be at a really good level as I approach the 50th book equivalent. And again, that's a time investment. So because again, you got to sit down and read the books. And for me, I'm reading the books and look up the words I don't know. So it's an even bigger time investment. So let's say every book is going to take me about 10 to 12 hours to get through. I'm sorry about I'm going into, maybe I'm answering your question into way too much detail, and I apologize about that. And I'm not looking at your answers, by the way. But anyway, affix. Do you agree? Because sometimes it feels easy to burn out. Yeah, now what I don't agree with is that like just watch it because, like, playing Japanese because. I do believe like you want to immerse in comprehensive material. When you first start in Japanese, since nothing is comprehensible, the immersion you do is kind of pointless, is in getting better in Japanese. What you want to do is instead immerse in the stuff you studied. So that means replaying, like if you're doing, maybe at the minimum, what I recommend to like people is like, hey, look, it's gonna sound stupid, it's gonna sound boring, but again, it's the starting off part. You're trying to build up to a point where now you can then use native Japanese material. But when you first start off, that's why it's like, hey, if you study the words from Tango, put those words in in fact, you would do this instead. Let's say, oh, here we are. Yeah, so do this.
私
私はアンです。
です。
私はスミスです。
3
トムさんですか？
はい。
All right, and then you got White Mouse saying non-comprehensible is important to get used to. Right, but you can get that with audio. But again, it's like if you don't understand it, it's not fun. You're not going to want. Now it feels like your work. It's forcing it. But yeah, you can listen to it. But I'm saying like the beginning stages is so early anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. Most of your immersion, a majority of your immersion is going to come once you get past this point anyway. So I'm saying get this beginning part, get to that 75% as quick as possible. Then worry about this whole immersion thing because you're going to get a lot more out of it. Because I have seen people, myself included, we thought that, we just got to be playing Japanese all the time. That's all, and magic happens. That's not true. It's got to become comprehensible. Then the brain can do shit with it. If it's not comprehensible, the brain can't do shit with it. Yeah, you might get used to sounds, but once you understand, especially when you get to reading and you actually notice about moras, yeah, you do start following with moras, but it's easier when you hear it when it's comprehensible. When you hear the difference between oki and ooki, or oya or oya, or obasan or obasan, like you start getting more, and then you learn a little bit about pitch, like the difference between takasa and takai, where even though the taka is pronounced a little different each one, hayasa hayai, where hayasa is like what's called the one or the whatever what's the other takada takada. I'm already forgetting how to say it, but yeah, it's a one, and then the other one is a two, where the drop is on the second after the second mora. For example, you start picking that stuff up. So I'm saying like the beginning stages, we're talking about 200 hours of study. So just do the 200 hours of study, get that, then worry about the immersion. And hopefully that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, help with the comprehension. And I did this and I did this. I think Pimsleur would be a very good example of this. Where, sorry, it's the 10 o'clock announcement about the emergency the emergency state of emergency that Japan's in because of the pandemic. Try to keep this on a simple level. The beginning stages is, let's just say I keep telling you, like, get to 2,500 words. 500 to 1,000 kanji, 2,500 words, basic grammar. Okay, that's going to take roughly about 200 hours of study, maybe less, but roughly about 200 hours of study, just as a ballpark number. you want to get those 2 hours done as early as possible, because then now you can turn around and you get a lot more out of the native Japanese material. Whereas if you're spending like 8 hours a day watching a show you don't even understand, okay, you're hearing Japanese, yeah, but okay, what if you use that hours instead to just keep doing the studying? So do the active studying, and then after the N4 level, that's when I'm saying, hey, that's when you want to do the split. That's when you want to start doing the let's read. Now, that said, if you're just watching shows for fun, yeah, go for it. Maybe at the beginning, and if you find yourself, hey, it's not fun, fucking hell yeah, put the English subtitles in there, sure, because you're having fun. All right. Now, if it's fun to watch it with just regular Japanese subtitles or with no subtitles at all, then do it. But if it feels like it's not fun, don't feel like you got to force, because that's going to be the burnout. When you're saying like it's not funny, you got these assholes, not assholes, but you got these people that think like, oh, you got to, you're fucking yourself over if you just watch it in English. You've completely fucked over your entire learning. No, okay, because you're not at the point where you're going to get anything out of immersion anyway. It can be fun, but you're not going to get anything out of it. Nothing worth writing home about. All right. I mean, it's almost like those guys. I mean, it's not going to be as bad as those guys who probably watched thousands of hours of anime with English subtitles, and they've maybe picked up a few words here and there. All right, they've tuned their ear for Japanese, so they can kind of make it out. But again, Japanese is still incomprehensible to them, and they've gotten nothing from it because again, they were just doing reading. But they were having fun. That's why they're doing it. So we want to say have fun. Then at a certain point, you can do that switch, but you want to do that switch early, but early enough, but also make sure it's still effective. That's all I'm encouraging. So, and it's because it's supposed to be such a small part, as a small amount of time, and the amount of time you're going to have to invest in to get good at Japanese. Just don't make the beginning parts difficult. I mean, to put it more of imagine a 100-meter sprint. Let's just say a 100-meter sprint. What you do at the beginning stages of a sprint is way, way, way different than what you're doing at the end stages of that same sprint. But you're trying to get that 100 meters as fast as possible. That doesn't mean you do at the beginning what you were doing at the end, because you're not going to get any. You're going to lose. You have to at the beginning head down, and it's more of a jump. You're jumping in a way, and you're head down. You're almost like you're falling forward. Then as you get the speed to where you need it to be, that's when you stand up straight and you're taking that form of running. And then you're just doing that same pattern for the majority of the run. But starting off, you have to do things a little bit differently to get yourself up to a point where the momentum can carry you forward. That's what we're trying to do at the beginning stages of Japanese. And it's where I think Ajax kind of fucked people over, because they made it think like what he was doing that was working after the beginning stages is what you should do at the beginning. And it's not. It's like knowing 3,000 kanji. Yeah, that's very fucking great to know after you've gotten to reach a certain point in your Japanese knowledge. But it's not the shit you need to know at the beginning. Same thing with vocabulary. I mean, you don't need to put in every vocabulary, because there are words you just don't need at the moment. Because they're like in a very rare use, and it was probably in that one story you were reading. You don't need to memorize that or spend effort to memorize it when there are so many other words that are going to be showing up in other places. There's some other things on top of that, but I do believe that there are steps you do in the beginning stages that are a little different than what you do in the intermediate stages, that are different than what you do in the advanced stages. And don't look at what somebody's doing in the advanced level and think, oh, I need to do that. And you don't even have basic vocabulary under your belt. Okay, that's kind of what I'm saying. And when you say about getting used to listening, well, yeah, the stuff you're studying, if this is like here, this is native audio.
いいえ、違います。
違います。
田中です。
田中です。That's native Japanese speaking. How come you're saying why can't you listen? You can listen to this and you're hearing how native Japanese are speaking. You're listening to the Mora, the speaking patterns.
こんにちは。
こんばんは。
I mean, it's not great. I mean, it's not something I would like listen to. It's like, damn, this shit is fire. Of course not. But it is native Japanese speaking. And it's from stuff you studied, so now it's at a higher comprehensible. So when you're listening to it, you're listening to comprehensible Japanese. You're going to get more out of it. And I would say I would have been better off if I was listening to this in my early stages. And then moved on into adding audio from shows that I've
どうぞ
watched. Instead of what I did before, I followed Katsumoto's thing. I just added audio from shows I watched.
はじめまして
Thing is, there were shows I didn't
どうぞ
comprehend.
よろしく
I just watched them, but I
こ
didn't
ちらこ
comprehend them.
そ
So when I take the audio that wasn't from a show that wasn't comprehensible, put in my
家族
ear and was listening to it for hours on end,
家族は
it was
7
also
人です
incomprehensible. That was wasted time. Yeah, it kind of like got
両親
a feel for sounds, but it was
父
incomprehensible sound,
母
if that makes sense.
姉
Now, the same thing I do now is
兄
what I was doing then, but now I'm using comprehensible.
弟
I'm using shows that I comprehend. I get a
妹
lot more out of it because I'm at a stage where I get a benefit from it.
兄弟
It wasn't beneficial at my beginning stages, and
犬
it was a waste of time. I could have
猫
actually been using that time of having sound in my ear that was comprehensible,
いる
and then I would have been able to listen to
犬がい
Japanese
ます
better and speak Japanese better.
兄がいま
Because
す
when I did do that, when I did do it with comprehensible
うち
audio, that was
う
started
ち
to
に
happen.
猫がいます
So hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, affix frequency list can be helpful. Kind of why Tango is good. Yeah. And you don't have to stick with it. It's like again, beginning stages they fucking work because those are. But then as you start getting further and further, frequency lists are kind of pointless because we're talking like fractions of percentages. Each word's like I think it's better to be words from stuff you're going to watch and watch again. That's why Morphman can be important in the intermediate sections because these are words, hopefully of material that, first off, you've already read, so it's from material you already comprehend at a level. It's hopefully material you now have ripped audio from and you're listening to now and again, either on a loop or an audio immersion loop or whatnot, or it might be a show that you're going to watch again. So now, yeah, that makes this really important because you want to watch it because you understand the story. If you watch it, it's not going to be difficult to follow along. So it's going to be enjoyable. And again, that's the intermediate stage. Advanced stages, it might just be, sentence mining, it becomes really important because, you're really going to maybe have to concentrate in areas of specific areas you want to get better in. You can still do. And then what you can do with frequency lists is you can utilize that with Morphman and say, hey, you know what? I'm up to about 20,000 words. Okay. So let's look at this already, like through Morphman. It scans all my sentences, says I'm at 20,000 words. It's not for me. I'm like very low, like 6,000 words. Like I said, I fucking suck in Japanese. But let's say it looks through. So let's say, okay, let's look at the top word list of 6,000 words. What are the words in that top 6,000? I don't know. And then maybe I can learn those. So, every few months or so, I go back, reassess, and look at, hey, what of these frequency lists, what are some words I don't know? And maybe go around to learn those. So I'm not learning from a frequency list directly. I'm just kind of going back to it and say, okay, now what do I need? What can be some other useful words to know since I'm already at this certain level? It's something to consider. It's like, oh, I already know that. Like you might go through that word list like, oh yeah, I do already know that word. It's just not in Anki. But yeah, I know it, so I don't need to learn it. Because you learned it through whatever immersion or other techniques that were happening. My vocabulary is definitely higher than what Anki shows. Anki is more of my active knowledge vocabulary, but my passive knowledge is much higher. That's why I can do these let's reads. And my passive knowledge is higher because I've been doing these let's reads. I know that. I know that's for the case. And that's going to be happening in your native. Like your passive knowledge of vocabulary is way, way higher than your active. Like you know it when you hear it. But if I ask you give me 3 words that are the same as red. I might crimson and I kind of like crimson, vermilion, and that kind of gets a little hazy for that 3rd word. All right. But if you see then a list of words like, yeah, I know that. Like, oh yeah, these are all words that mean red. That's the passive versus the active. That's all active recall versus passive recognition. And you want your passive vocabulary to be the higher it is, the easier it is going to be reading anyway. And that's a majority of your input, majority of your contact with Japanese is going to be on a passive level anyway. So yeah, who cares? All right. I know I'm going all over the place. FX, thank you for the comments. Words in it if you can't spell correctly, but you know it. Yeah, and native English speakers are shitty at spelling because our pronunciation of the word is way different than the letters we use in that word. With Japanese, a little different. Is usually it's about kanji that is used for words, and so or reading is different. Like, hey, what is then maybe the pronunciation like might switch. It might go between onyomi, kunyomi, or if it's voiced or unvoiced or whatnot. But yeah, that's the equivalent of spelling for Japanese is kanji. I'm still of the opinion though you should know there are like there's nothing wrong with if you're going to study English testing your spelling, like hearing a word in English and let's say not bicycle, let's say metamorphosis. Um, and then the metamorphosis from a caterpillar into a butterfly is a beautiful process. So metamorphosis, so you know it's a change. Okay, then you want to spell it. I don't, since it was an audio, I don't think it's bad to say, expect someone to say, can you imagine someone say, well, okay, you don't need to know how to spell. No, you expect someone who's learning English to know how to spell some words. Same thing goes with kanji. You should know how to write, be able to write kanji. If your average adult Japanese person knows how to write the kanji as well, it's not unreasonable to say, you would like to be able to write a kanji from memory, or write a word from memory using the correct kanji. I don't think that's being extreme. But you want to prioritize it on things like, it's not a mandatory, but it's like a nicety instead of a necessity. So maybe there's a tactic I use in Anki called like a hard pass or a hard fail where it's like, okay, for me writing kanji from memory, it's not a fail if I don't do it. But if I can't do it for a word that's over 6 months old, like something that's going to be if I mark it hard, it will be put over 6 months time frame. Then okay, maybe I'll mark that one fail. I'll fail that word so I can see it again and then practice writing it, because it's that way my time is not dedicated solely to trying to write kanji from memory. But for the words where it turned out I couldn't write it from memory, I give them a little bit. I'm giving a little bit more time with it, just a little, and then it goes back to being 3 months. Yeah, not a big deal. And I don't feel like I'm being overburdened with vocabulary in Anki like I used to do. That used to happen with me. I would fail stuff because I couldn't write it in kanji, and it was just making the reviews harder. I was making it more difficult than it needed to be for something that isn't that essential. It's a nicety, not a necessity. And so for niceties, consider something like okay, hey, if I mark it difficult, but it's over a certain number of months, let's say 6 months, maybe then I'll fail it. So niceties are things you mark hard if you miss. Necessity of stuff you fail if you miss, if that makes sense for Anki. And it's a difficult thing to explain because people might take it too seriously or try to overthink it. When it's just for me, it's just kind of more of an intuition. Like, okay, hey, I don't know this word as good as I think I should, so maybe I don't need it to go out for a year or 2 years. Okay, let me bring it back down to 3 months or something. And Anki can do that for me. All right, and so I've been talking about almost 30 minutes, or actually 20 minutes on this. I apologize. Thank you for the comments, FX and White Mouse. Those are very good comments. It's stuff that's worthy of this talking about, because this is a Let's Read Japanese, but part of that gets to this point is the studying of Japanese, and so it's useful to discuss, hey, what do you got to do for the studying of Japanese, and there is importance in is what I do with the Let's Learn Japanese project is I set aside, hey, what you do as a beginning stages, and then the beginner basic stages, intermediate stage, and there's upper and lower intermediate, and then advanced stage, and then even the advanced stage there's something beyond that, which is now you got to worry about the native level material, the native level processes. When it comes to speaking, I think Matt versus Japan said it best, like he wasn't really practicing output speaking out loud as a certain way till he was basically passively fluent in Japanese. Like he could understand anything he heard, he can read anything he read, he understand everything he read, understand everything he heard. That's when he started outputting. That's when he started talking. And then he only had to concentrate on, basically he went through speech therapy in a way. You think about it. And speech therapy happens for people who are native English speakers. You have speech therapy for native English speakers. Again, because their tongue in their mouth is not forming words the way the average person expects it to be formed, so it makes it difficult to hear. Speech therapy, pronunciational words. patterns, cadences. You know, these are things that, now for me, it might be easier if and for me, it's a little different. It feels like I can speak it feels like I speak better if I pretend I'm a character. If I'm just trying to speak normally, I think I sound worse. It's hard to explain, but it feels that way. But I'm not stressing, I'm not caring about output too much. I try to explain this to my wife. It's like I just concern myself with trying to understand Japanese at a higher level. That is what I need to aim for. You know, and I'm not going to get better in Japanese just because I sit there and, you know, go to a bar and start talking. Because I'm not getting the feedback of, if I make a mistake, they're not going to correct my errors. They will not. I know this from experience. And yes, I can do karaoke and sing okay there. But again, singing karaoke is way different in Japanese. I can probably fool natives into thinking it's a Japanese person singing. I could probably do that from time to time in karaoke. However, that's a parlor trick, because they hear me talking, it's obvious I don't know Japanese. Okay. So, but it's fun. I do realize if being relaxed helps. So yeah, you get a beer or two inside, yeah, you tend to talk a little better because you're not sweating, you're not trying to stress about what you're saying, so it's a lot easier. But again, that's kind of that's a false confidence there. You should be able to do it without having to overthink it. So you want to be at that level. I'm not at that level. But again, I'm having fun. And I'll say it, like I said, I'm having fun. And really, that's the most important thing. I'm having fun what I'm doing here. I'm having fun with how it helps the community. And I enjoy that other people, for some reason, it sounds weird that they enjoy watching the stuff I make. So, but that's kind of cool. And I'm glad I started putting this stuff, like me talking a lot, at the end, so that people can shut down the fucking video or go on to the next one because they don't have to listen to me rant, saying the same shit again and again. So I kind of regret that it took me a while to figure that part out, but you know, I've done some Let's Read my earlier videos, or a lot of my earlier videos, where I'm talking way too much in the beginning, and I should just save that to the end. Or even worse, there were Let's Reads I've done where they were in the middle of other stuff I was doing. All right. Thank you all very much. This has been Nuke Marine. This has been Let's Read Japanese. Shinya Shokudo Movies. It's the end of the movies. As I mentioned, next is I'm going to do, for those of you on Twitch, I'll be doing 3 videos for Kino Nani Tabata, the 3 special videos. And then going to the second half of Time Taxi, those 6 episodes there. And then going back in the 4th season, which is the Netflix season of Shinya Shokudo. Now, what I'm wondering if I should or shouldn't do, 4th season of Shinya Shokudo has audio descriptions. Like, so again, additional audio where it's basically narrating the non-spoken dialogue. I'm going to try to play it with that. That means I can't really skip over stuff. I got to be really careful because that audio, that audio is, like I said, it will be an experiment. We'll see if it works. If it does, I'll try it with other videos also that have that as a audio selection. Anyway, time will tell. Thank you all very much. This has been fun. I will see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up or a like. If you enjoy the series, subscribe to see more. If you appreciate the Let's Learn Japanese project, subscribe to the Patreon if you want to show your support that way if you want to. There's in the description, there's links to the Let's Learn Japanese website and the community Discord. Finally, if you'd like to hire me on commission, usually one-on-one to walk you through the starting process, or kind of for those restarting, kind of go on a different tact, then yeah, the links, that's done via the Patreon as well. The hourly rates and the payments are done via the Patreon. So, all right, specific link to that as well in the description. Thank you all very much, and I will see you next time. All right, later, guys. And thank you all for your comments.